Hey, Podcast America. Welcome to episode 89 of the Enlightened Neanderthals, brought to you by my company, Training Northwest. And what do we have going on out there? By the time you guys hear this, pistol class, I think, will have come and gone, so too late. So sad for you. I have a carbine class posted for June. It's the only one I'm doing, so if that's something you're interested in, get in on it. Private lessons are booking. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, I think it's just at Training Northwest, I've been posting some videos of these walk-back drills I've been doing with both carbines and bolt gun rifles. It's a lot of fun. That's something that I can open up to one-on-one or one-on-two. And I'm even going to combine it with a little bit of, I don't know, as I get deeper into all my spirituality and plant medicine and hippie woo-woo stuff, a little bit of personal counseling. So it'll almost be like if you want to come out, spend the afternoon just talking about life in general while also shooting rifles and hiking in the woods, which who the fuck doesn't? Get a hold of me, Training Northwest at protonmail.com. Michael.
Tobin. This was a fun episode. We had our buddy, Scott Stilwell.
Hey.
There he is.
For the record, the CIA did not send me to sow disruption in our community.
I think that's actually, he's a plant.
Scott also did not take a shot at President Trump in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely not.
This is for the record.
Yeah.
I shoot irons, but I'm not that fucking good.
No, this was more talk about government with our buddy Scott, and we talked about USAID and maybe some of the programs they've used or how they've used it over the years to maybe PSYOP intent, maybe what the purpose of PSYOP. I feel like my biggest thing is just trying to understand the mentality. It's like I see the moves happening, but what is the thought process behind it a little bit? And I don't know. It's fun to bounce perspectives. Everyone here has their own thought of how the government plays nefarious acts throughout its operation. But to see how people think it works and their examples, I don't know. It's fun. This is my favorite thing, is just bouncing. This is real-time thought and talk and bouncing what you think off.
I thought the sauna with me was your favorite thing.
And maybe the government doesn't do that at all. Maybe we're looking too deep into it.
I think
listen and find out.
Everything perfect. Yeah. Where he got that rental car and he put it in the demolition derby. Yeah. And then he takes it back and he's like, "But I got the insurance."
I'd like to know how that ended. If behind the scenes they had to pay it all off.
Oh, I guaranteed.
I wonder what kind of insurance policy those guys really had for that whole thing.
Yeah.
Do you think insurance was willing to carry them? I feel like that's like
know. That's what I'm
Along
saying.
Came Polly or whatever, when the guy, is it Alec Baldwin's like the insurance adjuster? Or not Alec Baldwin, Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller, yeah.
Yeah. And he's trying to decide if they can provide life insurance. I'm sure those guys were declined for any sort of life insurance.
They're scraping the bottom of a barrel to get a fucking policy put together to support those guys.
I think when you film yourself butt chugging vodka, like no insurance covers.
Like, what are you guys going to be doing today?
Yeah. How does OSHA feel about this? All right, so we got our buddy Scott in studio kitchen today, and we're going to talk about USAID, which is a non-government organization, NGO, that ostensibly does humanitarian work around the globe in support of United States policy. I just made that up. I hope that's close to their actual byline. But in all reality, is a front for the Central Intelligence Agency. And this one was interesting to me because I started listening to Mike Benz a few months back as I became more and more concerned about the rise of like an authoritarian police state. And he was talking about USAID, and it really struck me because I rubbed up against them in Pakistan when I was working there for the Central Intelligence Agency. And one of the interesting things about working there after coming out of combat zones was that everywhere there are these NGOs, Red Cross, Red Crescent, which that's another one that I would be very curious. It hasn't come up in any of the conversations that I've seen on Twitter or with like the Department of Government Efficiency and Elon Musk. But I would suspect that the Red Cross is also a front for intelligence activities. Also, that also does humanitarian work. And I think that might be the key to USAID. And actually, let me back up. So we rubbed up against USAID in Pakistan. And I was always wondering, like, why are we having, because I was just a knuckle dragging grunt. So I wasn't privy to the details of they didn't let me into the smart people places. But it never made sense to me that we were always working hand in hand with USAID because we were an intelligence agency and they were a do-gooder organization. And somehow their personnel were always in our part of the consulate, which did not make sense to me until now. It makes complete sense that USAID, what better cover for an action arm of your intelligence organization than a humanitarian effort, because they have an excuse to be fucking everywhere, like USAID, like the Red Cross.
Yeah.
So here's the definite. This is according to Wikipedia's cover for USAID. Creation. Congress passed the Foreign Assistance Act on September 4th, 1961, which reorganized U.S. foreign assistance programs and mandated the creation of an agency to administer economic aid. USAID was subsequently established by the executive order of President John F. Kennedy, who sought to unite several existing foreign assistance organizations and programs under one agency. USAID became the first U.S. foreign assistance organization whose primary focus was long-term socioeconomic development. So that's 1961. Cold War's in full bloom. It's all about consolidating foreign intervention efforts to destabilize any buffer state against the Soviet Union at the time. That's
sure. Yeah, it's a way to funnel money to those, like you said, those buffer nations that were sort of the front line of the Cold War.
So that's the creation. That's the impetus for the creation. Now, from 1991 onward, why does it exist?
Right.
And that's
leads us, and nobody thinks to question these things because rewind the clock pre-COVID pandemic, not too many people were questioning what the government is doing, and everybody we sort of lived in this happy little bubble of we are the light of democracy here in North America, and we shine it for all the world to see. And turns out we are the boot that steps on the throat of the rest of the world and profits off of that. And we're kind of finding it like it's like this great awakening, and we're starting to see just the corruption and the evil. Like the United States has exported a lot of positive things, and we are good people by and large, but there are these little evil tentacles where the quote unquote deep state exercise their power around the world to enrich themselves. And it's not even just the deep state here in the United States. I think we need to look at like the the World Monetary Fund. Is that correct? World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, and I think it is called the World Monetary Fund, because I think that truly is where your deep state players lie, and the CIA, the American DOD, and these sort of front organizations were the action arm of that.
Yeah.
Are the action arm of that.
These big outreach programs with these giant budgets, you got to start being cold and cynical about every one of them. Like, what the fuck is this for? Why are we spending all this money for what exactly?
Serbian gender studies.
Yeah.
So, which when you start reading, I think a bunch of budget lines from USAID have been posted recently, and it literally is Serbian gender studies, and then all these countries in North Africa for various LGBTQ type stuff, or vaccine awareness programs, blah blah blah,
sex change.
Yeah. And the other thing that's been shared a lot is a lot of TikTok channels coming out of these African. They're basically colonies, even though we don't call them that, and they're like we don't want America or Western Europe here either. All of these quote unquote programs that everybody touts and sort of holds on a pedestal at home, we don't want them. They're holding us back. We don't want the empire. And I completely empathize with them. I wouldn't want an empire here in our country.
Shoved down your throat.
Exactly. Yeah. Shoving their gay shit down our throats.
Yeah. I've seen different iterations of this on Twitter. I'll never call it X. It's fucking gay. But people saying, this is, and respectable people, foreign policy correspondents and economic people and all that kind of stuff. This is the decline of the American empire. And in my
Good. Let's
heart
get
of
back to
hearts, I'm
America
just
first.
like, fuck yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, no more empire, please. Because if we're so invested in countering Russia and China and everything that we're doing has no negative effect on them, when are we going to reassess what we're doing here? And the big play on this, skeptics of pulling funding for USAID or shutting it down, really what they're doing is they're moving it into the jurisdiction of the State Department. So they're consolidating it. So it's not an adjacent organization anymore. It's going to be under the direction of Marco Rubio and whatever he decides to do with it.
Which that's another interesting character because he used to be a neocon, and everything he's been saying since Trump took office, I agree with.
Yeah, he's prepping himself for running in 28.
It just concerns me that there's still snakes in the grass.
Yeah, yeah.
He's saying all the right things to be a part of this administration, but if you rewind the clock a few months, he was not saying all the right things.
He's being a good boy. That's what it is.
So the inception of this was 1961, you said, right?
Yeah, correct. Yep.
What were the first things it did? Do you know? Does it say at all what were the first actions?
Yeah, so let's see here. Disaster relief, poverty relief, technical cooperation, bilateral interests, whatever that can be interpreted as.
That's
all these very vague things,
Yes.
and we need millions of dollars to do them.
Socioeconomic development. So disaster relief. Bad things happen, sure enough.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of money and resources. We can plant ourselves there. And in the midst of chaos, become your government.
Yeah.
And start to pick around a little bit. What's the, you guys don't really like that guy. Well, we like this guy quite a bit. This, psychotic rebel who's going to overthrow your current, warlord. We're going to take your bad situation, make it that much worse because it's going to benefit us. Because if you're unstable, then
Price of oil drops.
Yeah.
It kind of seems like, because looking into this, it seems like from 1999 to 2014, they gave between $4 and $6 billion to Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And what they said it was for is, independent journalism and to provide democracy, like to give other viewpoints. But it seems like, this is just for funding rebel causes or regime changes.
I think in that Ron Paul video I sent you guys, he quotes that 90% of Ukrainian media was funded by USAID.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Think about that. Think about being a country on the other side of the world from the country that's funding your news. How fucking infuriating that must be. How many permanent enemies that's making.
Yeah.
And that's happening all over the world for decades now.
Yeah.
So,
but it seems like the perfect thing to topple it, like a Gaddafi.
I'm gonna move these plants. I don't want to miss Jordan's beautiful face.
Yeah. Oh, my ficus,
sir! If these plants die, there will never be more here in this house. So
sorry,
it's a one-time proposition.
I'll give you some MK.
I'm keeping a 13-year-old alive. That's all I can do.
MK Ultra AID.
That's a struggle some days.
Yeah, it just seems like what it is just like you said. It's kind of ran. Well, not kind of. It seems to be like an extra arm or tentacle of the CIA. And when you have a developing area or someone you don't like in a country that you maybe don't see eye to eye with, it's easier to infiltrate and provide funding to rebels or to what you see as a good regime change than it is to actually help a country out. It seems kind of like that USAID is just used for putting money to like grease the wheels of wherever you want in next.
Yeah, I think it is. That's what. Well, boy, blah. It is the way to funnel illicit funding.
Yeah,
because you create a reason like a gender study or a independent an independent journalist that needs to be supported, who
socially accepted way of packaging
that nobody thinks to look at. Red Cross, yes, I support the Red Cross. They help people in disasters. USAID, yes, I help them. They go to Haiti after earthquakes.
$50
you know what I mean?
into
Nobody thinks to look at that budget line item until now, when we are literally looking at every budget line item, which thank fucking God, this is something that should have been done decades ago.
Yeah.
But here we are, and they're looking at these line items and going, what the fuck?
Well, you think about the interventions that we've
Gender
had.
equality in the Congo.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But the interventions that we've done around the world, and it's no mistake that these countries are adjacent to what would be, regional superpowers as far as trade, right?
Yeah.
So if you're anywhere near Russia or China or Brazil, right, we're going to get our fingerprints in the way that you conduct business, because if you have a robust economy, well, what would you do? You would trade with your neighbors,
Yeah.
right? And if you don't, and you're attached to the hip with our pocket, then that's easy. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's really cynical. It's such an inversion of what it was put together to try to fight, the Soviet Union, and how insidious, and the way that they would just sink their fangs into all kinds of social movements and labor unions and all this other kind of stuff, right? And now we're just doing exactly the same thing in the name of having fought against that before.
Yeah.
It's really disgusting.
And it makes me wonder how much of that funnels into Antifa and Black Lives Matter and some of these sort of
that data
fronts.
exists.
Yeah.
That data exists. We
Really?
may or
I
may not know that, but I mean, I'm positive that it's out there. There must be FOIA requests to be done, but you saw during the fires during COVID. I mean, there's no mistake about people were putting on their Facebook that they're driving out into the mountains with cans of gas, putting pictures up on their social media.
Yeah.
I don't believe that was a grassroots fuck the man kind of thing.
No, it was far too organized across the entire country for it to have been a homegrown type of a deal.
Well, and if this is the thing that we do too, it's third party weird backdoor funding to whatever group or cause you want. It makes me think of things like a China where you have, what do they call it? Like the Belt and Road Initiative, where it's like, okay, well, we say what we're doing is we're trying to provide commerce in an area for economic growth for some of these third world nations like South America or in Africa, and we'll build ports and we'll help get you further along into industry. But it makes me think, well, if we do this, what do other countries do? China has to have their own version of it. And is it something where it's like, is it a backdoor program where it's like, oh, we fund these things? Or is China just like, fuck it? The Chinese Communist Party is the government. So, why would we need to create some initiative for it?
They just do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
They don't have to create these smoke and mirrors kind of organizations to illicitly funnel funds. But I think also China also, they do a fair amount of their own, whatever you want to call it, surreptitious or clandestine political type activity. This is just our method of doing it because we have a publicly funded system. So in order to do, you have to basically
act like you're fooling the citizens.
Yeah.
Or
Act like it's in anybody's
and
best
I think
interest.
to the credit of China's Belt and Road Initiative, I guess I don't know because I haven't been to Africa, but I think where a lot of the U.S. funded programs fail in that the money gets embezzled. As it's traveling from point A to point B, it hits 7 different way stations and everybody takes their cut so that by the time it actually gets to fucking, I don't know, Afghanistan, our $12 million is enough to buy 6 wheelbarrows for reconstruction.
Yeah.
And I think China's Belt and Road Initiative has been pretty successful in actually creating infrastructure as opposed to ours, which is, it's just money laundering.
Yeah. And this is my kind of question, and this would be a good thing for anybody to kind of think of on their own because I don't have an answer for this, but you compare our presence abroad, obviously not good. If we show up and we put our flag in the sand, it's not a good sign for you guys. You guys are not going to be feeling good about that.
Send out your women and your oil.
Yeah. China, on the other hand, they're building ports, they're providing infrastructure support, they're getting involved in mining, and they play it fast and loose with workers' rights and safety and stuff that I really don't agree with. However,
their human rights violations are egregious. However, that's how the fucking Hoover Dam got built. So,
well, yeah,
and the railroads.
That's that's how lots of shit gets built. But my big picture question is, how does that compare to our interventions? Because they're putting together an infrastructure that has global ramifications, ports and shipping lanes and all this kind of stuff.
Well, it's an interesting, sorry, I'm cutting you off real quick. It's an interesting duality because on one hand, they're violating the shit out of like the human rights of the poor people and enriching a very few people in these areas. But on the other hand, they are increasing the infrastructure of these areas, which long-term may lead to the rise of a middle class.
Yeah.
But it's nefarious in a different way, where the Belt and Road Initiative seems a little bit more nefarious, is like, okay, we'll give you all the money, we'll give you all the resources, you can build this, but now we own this for like a 200 to 300 year lease.
Yeah.
Because we brought
Which is
this
exactly
commerce.
what we used to do with all these economic.
But in more so, they're like, okay, well, we have a stranglehold on the physicality of the area and the money and what's coming in and out. But something the United States has done like since the 60s is we put out a lot more culture and like feeling, and this is the
all the
vibe.
culture, rock and roll, Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like the, what I mean?
And so where China still sticks with, we can build it, but we're going
There ain't
to
no
own
Johnny
this
Cash
for
in
100
China, buddy.
years. Yeah. The
They're
United
building
States
a movie
has
theater
been
to
like,
play fucking Hollywood movies.
yeah. But the United States has been like, well, not only let's focus on infrastructure, let's try to persuade the population due to thought infiltration, mind viruses, just ways of unrest, which is, in my opinion, the CIA basic operating manual.
Yeah.
But I think what the difference is
I think post World War II, the CIA switched from intelligence gathering to instability creating for the sake of empire building.
Yeah.
yeah.
And this is it's like catching up to bite us now. I think it bit us on 9/11 because the world hated us, especially the poor. Like the poorer the parts of the world, the more negative influence we had. And so I hate, like, people are going to get mad. Like, we didn't create 9/11. In some ways, we created the energy that led to 9/11.
We created the conditions that set the tone,
Exactly.
set the tempo for that having kicked off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because basically anywhere in the world that couldn't afford a military to stand up to us after World War II, we went in and put our boot on their neck and we're like, listen, what do you got? Rubber, oil, coal, whatever you got, we're taking it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to go back to Afghanistan, that's a
You'll
perfect
also
example.
notice we never do disaster relief in countries that don't have natural resources.
But
like America.
yeah. But Afghanistan's a perfect example because the Afghanis hated the Russians back in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s and stuff when they were invading it. But so we're like, oh, this is perfect to play like devil's advocate or like speaking soothing whispers into your ear. Like, we're like, oh, yeah, these Russians are pieces of shit, aren't they? To the Afghanis, we'll fund you. We'll
Here's
give
some
you
surface-to-air
all
missiles.
and we'll provide weaponry and stuff. And then once that kind of fizzles out and Russia's like, we're done with Afghanistan, we're going to go bomb Syria in 91, then all of a sudden, Afghanistan is just kind of like, well, you gave us all this stuff. We're war torn now. You provided the means to create disaster, but now the bad guys are out and you're not helping us out anymore. And they're like,
It's interesting that Desert Storm was right after, like immediately after the Cold War came to a close, and it was almost as if we needed a new conflict hotspot.
Well,
And it was
Russia
like-
did the same thing with Syria. They
and
immediately
you know what's funny is
hopped in.
I'm kind of thinking about all of this in real time because I used to gripe after my own experiences in Iraq when I realized how unstable the country had become, even though I didn't know anything pre-2003. And just, the little bit of reading that I like to do. And I realized that Saddam Hussein was a stabilizing force in the Middle East. And I was like, why? What a colossal mistake to remove the guy who sat in the middle of all these. You had Iran on one side, and over here you've got the Sunnis and the Arabs, and they all kind of hate each other, and Israel over here. And Saddam was actually sort of a stabilizing force in the Middle East because he had a giant military. And for all these, Sunni versus Shia to fight with each other, they were going to have to come across him. And it makes all the sense in the world now why we removed him, because that created all of the instability across the Middle East since 2003.
Yeah.
And that whole debacle goes all the way back to World War I because of the fall of the Ottoman Empire. We carved up the West,
NATO, which
well,
also is relevant in this conversation.
Yeah, particularly the British Empire carved up that whole area and appointed dictators to all these new territories where there was never territory before. That's not how Arab Muslims
They don't
rock.
think like that.
They don't.
Yeah.
That's just, and our form of government. And this is, people don't really think about this, but democracy is a very radical idea. It's an old idea, but it is an extremely radical idea. Most people don't do government the way that we do it.
No.
So we try to apply it to other people who have a very old way of thinking about the world.
It didn't ask
Doesn't
for it.
fly, and didn't ask for it, and don't want it. It doesn't fly. So to your point, yeah, they take Saddam away, and then what do we have? We have the Shia revival, and they've been getting kicked around for hundreds of years. They have a fucking bone to pick.
Oh, there's for
So
if you get to travel to any of these, like, literally any older culture than ours, which is almost every culture, but when you go to some of these really old cultures, you start to realize they have some serious hate that is thousands of years old and handed down. It's generational hate, and the idea that we're going to get in there and stop it, like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
especially with Saddam, like you said, because he was Sunni or he was Ba'athist, and had no problem putting down rebellion. And I mean, there's a story. I can't remember. Some historian shared it, but the CIA. He was basically the CIA's guy.
Yes.
Sent him a list of people, like,
It would be
handle these
interesting to
people.
know if there's a
Right.
USAID connection to Saddam.
I'm sure there is.
Almost certain.
I'm sure there is. But anyway, they said, do something about these people. And like the next day, they were all hanged in public. It's like, whoa, what the fuck? I guess you're our guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well,
anyway.
it also just goes to show you more how our form of intervention is screwing up the complete system. Like, if you, like you're saying, Saddam was like, he stabilized the area because he, in a way, was like a broad sword, you know? And so it's like, oh, if I go against this guy, I'm going to get cut down. And then I lose, you lose, we all lose, right? And so it's like, well, I have to mind my P's and Q's. But then when you get, instead of a Saddam, if you get, like, he's being the girl at high school, like, did you hear what Jenna said about you? And then she goes over to Jenna and she says, did you hear what Tracy said about you? Like, that's the way the CIA kind of acts. And that's what you're seeing with this USAID is it's mind games. It's just, it's CIA intervention as normal, but you're destabilizing a country, a region, a movement, a culture, and it just creates what we think is, oh, we're upsetting one group to get our funded rebels or what we see as a good cause to rise up. What you're doing is you're destabilizing the people. You're destabilizing the morality. You're destabilizing how things have worked for thousands of years. And I think that's why you see so many things blowing up, like post World War II and presently way more, is just because of the confusion of how the CIA works. It's not there's a mission plan and we stick to it. It's we don't like this dictator. Let's get to know one of his close inner circle that doesn't think he's the best guy in the world, and let's start and manipulate him.
Yeah, it harkens back to just old English politics and really Machiavellian politics. It's might makes right.
Yeah.
You have the power, you use the power. You have the power, you swing the hammer. That's what you do.
But the hammer is the power for the might. This is a different might we have where we're playing like
it's insidious.
Mind
it's
games
exactly,
or
it's
3D
exactly as you
chess.
described, though. It's
Yeah.
exactly as you described. It's very manipulative. It's very sneaky. And we saw the most recent example of that you're describing is probably in Syria the past several months. A despised, reviled character in Bashar al-Assad, not complicated person, but his father had no problem just bulldozing one of his cities to the fucking ground and probably killing 10,000 people, right, to put down a rebellion, because that's how you do things in that part of the world. It's fucked up, but they move him out, and then all of a sudden, who fills that vacuum is a bunch of tribes, a bunch of NATO-backed tribes.
Yeah.
It's
Turns into ISIS.
Yeah. I mean, wasn't that pretty much the whole Iran thing too?
Which part? Yeah, yes,
back in the
we installed the
70s.
Shah,
Yeah.
which was then overthrown.
Yeah.
Yeah. Iran was actually a tourist destination in the 70s, as was Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Before us and like the Russians fucked up Afghanistan, we fucked up Iran.
Why do you think?
Which is probably why the Russians went into Afghanistan, is because we instituted a regime change in Iran in the 70s.
Yeah.
So now we're on their border. Now they're moving down into Afghanistan to contest that.
Yeah. So we can't have that. And then both powers had the same issue, is that they moved into this part of the world where none of their theories about government apply to these people. Doesn't work there. You know, in Afghanistan, you have people that look, my tribe, my people, we from that mountain range to that mountain range.
As far as you can see.
You know,
and no
it's like
further.
a border. There's no border. It's just there and there.
Yeah.
You know, so
Why do you think we still try and do these games if it seems like they're
people get
less
rich.
and less
Halliburton,
effective? You think it's just a few making the money?
Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed Martin. I think.
But isn't it downward? I can't say it.
Downward.
Yes, downwardly spiraling out of control.
Is downwardly a word?
Yeah.
That's why you couldn't say it.
Downwardly.
downwardly,
When I say it, it's a word.
wordly down.
Wordly down. But isn't that like, this isn't working? Like these things that we've been doing post World War II into the Cold War, it's like it's
working for somebody.
Yeah,
stabilizing.
that's the point. Is for who, you know.
It's
But
working for
after
somebody.
long enough, isn't it that model will eventually fold if it doesn't appeal to the masses and benefit?
I think we're there.
Is that just what we're seeing?
We're at a point of like world uprising. It's kind of the way it feels. We're at like an early point of the masses realizing we've been taken advantage of for quite a while, and everybody's fucking tired of it.
Yeah.
And in a lot of
I
ways,
am.
Jordan's just tired. He's just tired.
but people hopefully are looking to us to lead the way, because that's what we should do.
But why do you think it changed to what were that type of initiative? Like, instead of the broadsword of World War II, just cutting things down? Is it because cutting things down?
I think we had the
blood in
military and the
receipts?
production, and people realized, like, we spun up this amazing production machine in World War II. And then in 1945, it's like, are you going to tell all these industrialists to just shutter it? They're like, fuck no, we're going to keep making money. Look at this production line we're running. This baby is humming. We're not closing this thing down.
Yeah,
we're making bombs and tanks, and you got to find a place to use them.
But I guarantee you, we use more bombs and tank during the broadsword of World War II than these elaborate
I don't know,
raising and falling of
how many nuclear
regimes.
munitions did we build, and at what cost to the taxpayers? Somebody was getting rich off of that shit.
And we weren't
all
at
these
war.
all these missile defense systems that have like a 20% success rate, but we went ahead and installed them anyway. You know what I mean? It's like somebody is making money on all of this shit, and it's frustrating because we could shift to a infrastructure focused economy. I think it literally was just that at the end of World War II, the production existed for weaponry, and that's what Eisenhower warned about. And we could have changed. Like I've said it before on this podcast, that at their heart, Boeing's, Raytheon's, L3, Lockheed Martin, whoever, they're all engineering companies. So switch your focus to civil engineering. Start building bridges and roads and dams and power plants and water treatment centers. And we can take all of that ingenuity and all of that brain power and put it to work right here in the United States. And we'd be living in a fucking utopia.
Yeah.
It's just weird to me that we went from World War II, where it was so much, we made so much money. Companies made Boeing, McDonnell Douglas. Well, I guess maybe they weren't military, but
Yeah, they are.
were they?
Yeah, they
okay.
They bought Boeing now. Yeah.
Well,
actually,
yeah.
the McDonnell
Boeing
Douglas
bought
built a bunch of bombers, and
Yeah.
yeah.
But for someone that was used for such broad strokes, such a broad sword of just destruction, and it's like, okay, this worked. This won us the war, and we made a lot of money off of it. After World War II, the CIA's budget exploded, but it wasn't like it seemed more like weaseling post World
Yes,
War II
100%.
instead of like, I'm going to stand here strong and tall and be a beacon
You
for
also had-
democracy.
right, yes.
I'm just going to be a little.
Because the OSS learned subversion during World War II. So then that became the Central Intelligence Agency. And now you had all these agents who were trained in subversion, not necessarily intelligence collection. And they were sent to work in the Cold War to subvert, just like Scott said earlier, these like Eastern Bloc and Soviet satellite nations. That's like Vietnam, right? Vietnam, the Korean War. It's all these
Korean
sort of border
War,
wars.
yeah, was the first. But even that was subvert. Instead of saying it was a war, it was a police action. And it's just, is that how really you conquer someone? Like,
No, the answer is no.
I was just gonna say, if we're looking at recent history, I think it's not working out.
no. But okay, so
I guess short term, yes.
but like we're sitting right here, and you have a neighbor right behind you, right, the next house, and then there's
And you burn his
another
fucking tree down on 4th of July.
Well, that's a version. And he has another neighbor past him, and say you don't like the furthest neighbor, right? So to be like that furthest neighbor's an asshole,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
we're
get
gonna
the
convert this
closest
guy.
neighbor
Yeah.
to me and start fucking with them. And
I'm going to turn him into my best friend,
lies.
and then I'm going to talk him into throwing his dog shit into
Yeah.
that guy's yard.
Is that? I mean, honestly, is that what it really just is? But
Pretty much.
on a national level,
Yes.
An international level, yeah. And I think the reason for that is because our model for foreign policies, like you said, it's developed around conflict.
Yeah.
Like we can't really express our industrial might if we're not blowing things up and killing people.
yeah.
You know, and that's our bread and butter. Sadly, and it's been that way since the whole second half of the 20th century. Was, well, we have industrial might, let's go kill people with it. And that it doesn't win, it causes permanent discontinuity with other people. It just causes warring tribes
And I
who
think
are going to hate you. They're going to grow up hating you.
Yeah, like Scott's going back turn of the century, 20th century, which actually I think is where we need to go, because the Napoleonic Wars and then World War I really didn't show. Those were the first wars that the Bank of Rothschild funded, and they funded both sides. And it was like, oh shit, this is a good business model, because nation states, they have an unending pool of money. They have labor. They have all these citizens who all owe some sort of servitude or tax to the nation. So we'll fund two nation states who are warring with each other. No matter what, our loans are getting repaid, because even the nation that loses, the nation that won owes us money too. So we'll say, hey, you have to enforce the losing nation's loan, right? So you're in charge there now. You have to make them, their
make it on
citizens,
both
work
sides.
Yeah, their ledger is not 30,000 people killed. It's 5,000 cannons built.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
how that goes.
What about Rome then? Like, if you think of Rome, because hey, my people. No, those are the Spartans.
Also pretty gay.
Yeah, that's what I mean, my people. What about Rome? Because Rome conquered everyone. But
Welcome
there
to
was
Mike's bathhouse. Would you like some olives?
but there was still a decent amount of love for Rome, even when they conquered new areas.
If things were good at home,
Yeah, but that's what I mean. And in that model of conquering, it's more of just that broadsword. It's just strength and force.
And there's a little
They
bit,
didn't do a lot of
this is conspiracy theory, but all the conspiracy theories are playing out. And a lot of people say that if you look at the crest of the United States, it's very similar to the crest of Rome.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Like as in the Roman Empire never actually ended. It just changed form, like it shapeshifted, and it looks different now. But the Vatican is still a autonomous state unto itself. So is London, and so is Washington, D.C.
True, but
There are 3 autonomous cities on the globe.
I feel
And
like
they all 3 have very similar crests if you look at them.
I feel like
I'm not going to tell you guys what they look like. Everybody should do their own homework on this. But tell me, look up the 3 crests of Washington, D.C., the United States of America, the city of London, and the Vatican, and the old Roman crest. They look kind of similar.
I'm sure they all look similar, but the army of Italy is not what it was.
No, because the army of the Vatican. So,
Well,
again,
Vatican's
hang
its
on.
own state, and
Right.
city. Yeah,
Do you know what the army of the Vatican is?
probably a bunch of
No,
mercenaries.
it's the United States military.
Oh wait, we represent the Vatican?
if what I'm saying is true, then the Vatican is the spiritual center, London is the banking center, and DC is the military center.
But like, if someone went and invaded Vatican City, who would show up, like to defend them?
Probably like Captain America, maybe Team America,
Wonder Woman.
Probably
But that's-
not, probably
you know
not
what's funny
Jesus.
is in hindsight how correct that Team America movie was when they just go fuck shit up and they're like, "You're welcome, Paris."
Yeah.
Except it's never anywhere nice like Paris. It's like, "You're welcome, Congo," or "You're welcome, Ecuador."
All you people that never had a chance, you're welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I'm struggling because I've never really thought a ton about this until we started talking about it, and I did a little research on my own, which you shouldn't do. But
Were they into sex robots?
everyone's into sex.
Are we the sex robots?
Yeah, no shit. No shit.
I'd love to be.
How did I get in this meat suit? What's up with these holes?
But oh shit, dude! You just derailed me right there with the holes. And
You ever wondered why all your holes have hair around them?
not all.
Why do I have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth? What the fuck?
I don't have an answer for that. I've just noticed.
That's gross. That's just gross.
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. Anyway, what the fuck are we talking about?
Broadsword.
Holes.
Holes in a broadsword.
I prepared
All right, let's
for a long
hang on.
time to do this.
Let's take a pee break. I'm making Jordan some coffee.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, so this is one of the gripes I had with the Army. One of the reasons I got out is that there's a point where you go, okay, I've proven myself now. You want another selection? You want it like, yes, I can walk through the woods with a backpack and a compass, and I'll never stop. I don't quit. So sort of similar to that, it's like, how many rounds of that do you have to do? How many times do you have to prove that you don't quit before there's diminishing return? Like I agree that for young men, that's really important. But there's a point where you go, okay, now you've proven it. Now we're just hurting you.
And until you know it.
Yeah.
Because you can do it for years and years and years, and you still don't know you can.
I guess that maybe it's a self-confidence thing then.
Yes.
Because I knew it.
It's more for your mind, I think, than your actual body.
Just to know that there's
I
no
agree.
way I'm going to be put in this situation in real life and not rise to the occasion.
Like a comfort with it almost, or an acceptance of it, so that if you find yourself in a street fight, you're like, this isn't very bad.
Well, even if you're in those practices, you're like, it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's a
Those
moment in
red
time.
lines, those just crush your soul red lines that you hit, you never really recede from that level.
Yeah.
You know, mentally, you
No,
get there and
no,
you can always
certainly.
kind of be there,
Yeah.
even if you're tired or hurt or sick or whatever.
Is when your body starts decaying and you still think you're there, and then it's like, I'll fuck you up, and it's like, you're 74 years old. Like, you're not gonna fuck anybody up, old man. And they're old, grouchy. Oh, well, let's fucking go. And then I look at my grandpa. My grandpa's like that.
I think that's also part of it, though, too. Like you're saying, it's like, what's the point? I can do all this. But when you're doing these type of sports and maybe you're trying to make money off it, you're looking for a percent of a percent of a percent.
Yeah.
Like a person that
No,
can
I get if you're in fight camp
perform.
and you're trying to peak out on a certain date. But if you're a Microsoft employee and you're 32 years old and you're doing a workout like what Jordan just
You would
described,
never do it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's not what you do.
Okay.
You pay the lights, or you pay the bill to keep the lights on at a gym, so guys who really want to get after it can get after it.
Okay.
So
Yeah, but
that's your role in a fucking fight gym. So all the Amazon employees that are going to gyms like that,
Yep.
they're playing for cardio kickboxing, not for real rounds. But what they are paying for is to be around real fighters.
I gotcha. Okay.
So like when it comes to actually training like that and getting it in, you have
So
to.
you're
get
saying the people
dragged
who were doing
through-
those workouts were actually taking fights.
No, actually,
usually.
They're all
That
high school
makes
wrestlers.
sense. Yeah. Yeah,
Taking
yeah.
a fucking fight the next week. But
Okay.
like
I was envisioning like a room like the mats at Electric North where you've got a mix of 17 to 50-year-olds.
no.
Okay.
Fuck no. People can't handle that.
No. And it wouldn't, A, they wouldn't learn much, and B, everybody would just be injured.
You'd scare
the
away your
following
client
day.
base as well.
No,
because I mean,
that's for
with your business model of your gym. I mean, I don't like saying middle of the. I don't like to pigeonhole anybody in their.
Actually, hang on. I'm going to talk a little bit of shit here, and I'll probably catch some flack for it. But I saw the photo of the first comp class from Monday, and there was a lot of people there. And I bet that by 2 weeks from now, that number has dwindled down to fewer than 20.
Hell week.
It'll be about 12 to 15 is my guess. Actually, stick with comp class through the end of it. Because I think it's going for like 2 months. Right?
It depends on how high they turn up the volume.
I think
Greg and Will have high. I mean, who knows? But what they're saying they're going to do is significant.
Yeah, I mean, if you get, I think, and just speaking from knowing the guy, I don't know. I have not had this conversation with him, but for Greg, I mean, I think, in my opinion, he's going to put you through the ringer. So that getting through this is an achievement in and of itself.
Yeah,
because he's done that before. And it's like, we don't really, obviously we want to win when we compete, but I don't give a shit if you win or lose, as long as you just bust your ass training to get there. Because the other guy has a vote.
Show heart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The most you can bring to competition is 50% because the other guy has a vote. So things fall the way that they fall. But we'll see.
Also, the nice part about, like, you're like, what's the point of doing that shit if you're a Microsoft guy? But if you can do that stuff and you can hang.
No, I think it is good. If you're under the age of 30, it's good to build some grit
But not
and
even,
do that kind of physical shit and feel some pain and have to suffer through it. But there comes a point when now you've done it several times. And now it's like, okay, let's do this again to prove ourselves. And it's like, no, you already know I can do that. I don't need to prove that anymore. And it's sort of like this wounded masculine thing that is, if I hurt myself bad enough, I can prove how tough I am, and then I'll like myself. And it never works out.
I mean,
and we're devolving back into last week's podcast about plant medicine and woo-woo shit.
No. But not only devolving, but it's like, just like anything you do in life, it's like when you go through those tough of the tough, it's like, all right, last night I went to competition class and I got ground out for hours, but I made it through. I'm sore as shit.
And then I missed practice on Wednesday because
but here's work tomorrow. And it's like, well, now I'm tired now a little bit from that. And I still have to use my left hand. Job.
I still have to use my job.
But it still keeps you in that mindset. I think there is a mindset that you're going after for competition. Maybe your skills aren't good, but if your mindset sometimes is like in it.
I don't mean specifically for competition. I mean people who do it. There's people doing it who don't intend to compete, or like that workout that Jordan was talking about when we were taking our pee break. And that's why I was saying, if these are all people who intend to take a fight, it makes complete sense. Yeah, but if it's people who are just showing up for jiu-jitsu class and they're getting shark tanked for however long, it's how long do they last? B, once you've proven you can do it a couple of times, how many times do you need to get injured proving you're tough enough?
Yeah.
And I see that it's one of the things I'm starting to recognize a lot through going through all these changes is the wounded masculine really wants to prove itself. And the societal norm is if you hurt yourself bad enough, then you will prove how tough you are and keep doing that over and over. Like it's all these tough mutters. It's why is the sauna 240 degrees instead of 205? Did we prove anything by then? It's like, dude, I sat in there for 30 minutes. It's like, okay. Do you want a fucking trophy?
I sweat fast.
When you can take that and go, now I'm going to go to work.
Yeah.
And I'm going to work for the next fucking year because I can. Mm-hmm. I don't want to, but I'm going to because I can get through it.
Yeah, and
because I know I'm tough.
But look at the mindset now that you take into work is you're like, this sucks. I hate it. It's horrible, but I'm going to grind out for the next year of my life and make myself miserable on the same level so that I can just get through life. And then you look back 10 years later and you go, that was a miserable 10 years. Like, no shit.
Anything hard, you have to be able to get through, right?
Yeah. It's the same thing with us in the trades, though. I mean, you got to know, and like rain, cold. It's cold right now. Yeah. You know, it's going to be rainy soon, and we're going to be outside most of the time. And I can genuinely say, like, I'm cool with whatever it is. It doesn't, and it's not like
I actually like it better regardless of the weather being outside.
Well, and this is the thing, is like, I don't feel like this is a yay me, I made it to this level of fucking toughness or whatever, but it's just like, it doesn't occur to me to be uncomfortable or like hate this.
It's
because I know I'm going to go home to my house and my wife and my
the
kids
pickle
and
suit.
make money for this, you know.
Inside the pickle suit, it's 96 degrees and humid.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what it's doing outside.
Yeah.
You can be toasty, warm, and sweaty all day long inside that thing.
What's a pickle suit?
The green rubber, like Helly Hansen rain suit.
Oh, yeah. Pickles.
Wet on the
glad you
outside, wet
clarified
on the
that,
inside.
actually.
Yeah.
Like these freaking electricians, man. They have their own lingo.
Yeah.
A pickle
Yeah.
suit.
The breathable Gore-Tex stuff isn't really waterproof, like the kind of waterproof we need for 8 hours in the rain.
Yeah.
So the only option is either to be soaking wet on the outside from rain or be soaking wet on the inside from wearing the rubber suit.
Yeah. But this is a good conversation because there should always be, and this goes all the way back to, ancient Greek shit. It's like, there's always a why. You do this for what reason? To express yourself, to be a part, to express your humanity, to be a part of the world, So it's like, why do you suffer through, Shark Tanking rounds? It's like, because,
makes you
what
stronger
the
in
mental
other
clarity
areas.
that you get from getting through that is, you don't get that otherwise.
Do you think it's good forever, or do you think there's like a place where you get to a law, like you're like, okay, I've done this 10 times. I can do it. It sucks, but I can do it. Now, is there a reason to continue doing it?
Yeah.
This is the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu, though, is that this is an individual endeavor. Like you can answer that in your own way.
Yeah,
that's your call.
I'm going to step in.
Buddha over
and
here.
give you my call. No, it's important to do it every day because life, no matter what, whether you're 30 and it's like the hardest thing is getting up and going to work, or you're in your late 80s and the hardest thing is getting out and getting that 1,000 steps.
There's levels too.
It's supposed to be
I guess what we should
hard.
include is that before we hit record again, what Jordan was saying is like, you're so fatigued and done in that other people have to lift you up so that somebody else can do a takedown on you. And I'm wondering, like, at that point, are we just injuring somebody, or are we really building? If somebody else has to lift you off the mat so I can tackle you, are we really building anything anymore? Or are we just beating you up to say we're beating you up?
No, you're beating you up to say you're beating you up.
Yeah.
So you can
But
get up
also-
and do it again.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like that's the durability it takes to do that. You're not going to be able to do it when you're fucking 30.
Yeah.
No way.
Okay.
But when you're 17 years old and you don't know the difference.
Yeah. And that's where I'm coming from too,
now
is
you're-
that
now
at
you're
44,
learning.
I'm also having a big shift in how I look at how I train jiu-jitsu.
But if you didn't
because
go-
my old mindset, even a year ago,
Your old
was
mindset
trained
made
like
you
I'm
who
30.
you are today.
Exactly. But I was also injured all the fucking time.
Yeah, but
and it was getting really old.
You are the person you are today from
Because
all
of
the
that.
shit, the hard
Yes.
things you did,
Yes.
and knowing you can do it. Imagine never going through it.
Oh, I
You'd
agree.
be a fucking horrible
That's what I'm
person.
saying. Yeah, you need to do it sometimes.
You know what
but
I
there
mean?
comes a point when you're doing the same fucking thing over and over again. You're not like, again, if I'm just laying there and you guys are picking me up off the mat so I can get spear tackled, we're not learning anymore.
I think you are. That's what I'm trying to say. Like that doesn't happen forever, right? Like it's not. We're not doing that to each other.
No, what
And
I
we certainly
spear-
didn't do. It
and
didn't
I'm
happen
also
last
it's
night.
like it's also like I proved by the time I was 30, physical suffering is never going to cause me to quit.
Yeah.
So at some
you did
point you go, all right, now let's do this. And I'm 40 and I go, I don't think that's a good idea.
Then don't
And
do it.
I agree.
You're more
Yeah, I
concerned
agree.
with the why.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is responsible. Now, my own personal experience, we were talking about this before. When I became a purple belt, I started teaching a lot. And I was teaching at the gym that I was training at, and I was teaching at another academy. And on Sundays, I'd go down from Lake Stevens to West Seattle to teach at another academy.
Jeez.
So I was on the mat every day, and I was hanging drywall for work, right? You can do this when you're 24, right? Eventually the wheels kind of fell off, and I was just like, I have to prioritize my life. Fast forward to present day, I have a wife and kids and house and a job that I really like. That's the thing, So now it's just like, well, to put it all into perspective, like being tired or sick or whatever, it's like, I'm still going to show up and do my job because that's the focus now.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have gotten to that without having gone through the ringer on my own accord with no other responsibilities, without a wife and kids and, you know, a mortgage and all that kind of shit.
Exactly.
You have to punish yourself for the sake of punishment at a time for a reason, because it's going to pay off. But to your point though, I mean, just ragdolling people, that again, it's an individual thing. You've got to be the one to take agency and say, like, I've had enough. This does not fit into my life. This does not fit into the purpose of my training.
No.
So, and it's different. I mean, it's, you know, I turned 37 recently. I'm the time from 27 to 37.
These fucking guys, Mike.
Things have changed.
Yeah, yes.
I'm right behind you, brother.
But no, it's just like we were talking, like the last time, I haven't been on the mat in a little bit. And the last time I did, I had a great day, but I really fucked my lower back up. And it took a long time to get back to being able to like work out again. And now
and I guess maybe that's part of my frustration with it, is that those that like, if we did that today, or if we did that when I was 25, I could go get a burger and 3 beers and be ready to go by 10 o'clock the next morning. Do that to me today, it's going to be 6 weeks.
Yeah, and there's no point for it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but I guess what I'm trying to say is like the mental fortitude you can gain from going through that at some point in your life, regardless if it's
Yes.
Rangers or
I agree.
But I think that that's really important. I think a lot of the people that are on the mats today
Yes.
are
Needing
just
that.
going through
Okay.
it for the first time,
Okay.
which is why it's like a really
Positive
Yes.
experience.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Okay.
that there's some level of like suffering that you have to go through, like Mike was saying. Like,
It's learning it.
yeah.
Well, I agree with me too. So
I agree with you too, dude. I
I think
100%
I think we're
you know?
saying the same thing on
You can't
a little
have
bit
it
slightly.
You
different.
are, I mean, this is the thing though, when you put a question forward like that, and this is the beautiful thing about talking about it, is like, we can make recommendations and all that kind of stuff, but ultimately you put the question forward. You are the one responsible for answering it in your own way, however it applies to you. That's, again, the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it's weird when you're doing jiu-jitsu because there's so much wrecking of yourself to get a little bit of reward.
Yeah.
That little bit of reward might be learning a new move or just learning where to position your weight. But goddamn, sometimes destroying yourself, like you're the phoenix rising from the ashes. You know what I mean? It's like,
I tell Zach,
it is worth it sometimes.
I always say that I drive home from jiu-jitsu either feeling like the dumbest, most incompetent motherfucker on planet Earth or like King Kong. Yep. There's
nothing in between.
There's no in between.
Yeah.
And it's majority dumbest motherfucker on earth. So those nights when you get to drive home feeling like King Kong, it's like, oh my God, that was the best practice ever.
Yeah. But that's where I kind of think it goes into your older years where it's like, okay, so say you slaughter yourself at the gym trying to get better, but then as you get older, you start to get more feeble. And it's like, okay, so if I don't use
Why'd
my
you look
body,
at me?
the oldest here, if I don't use my body, it's going to get even worse and more dilapidated. So even though there is pain, the more I use it, the better it works. So I think having these things where you're like, even though I'm destroyed, I don't want to do this. But if I know if I just keep walking the road, no matter what, just keep walking, eventually I'll get further along it and I'll be further ahead than I was before.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer though, like for me and where I'm at, and I think everybody at this table, rounds on an assault bike.
Oh yeah.
Is-
I was just thinking,
yes.
I'm going to keep drinking beer and lifting weights in the sauna with Igor.
Yeah, I mean, but I think like that's the kind of thing.
I'm going on that Russian program.
We don't have to beat the shit out of ourselves and like the way of getting injured, but you can beat the shit out of yourself on, your lungs or whatever.
you
like,
can kill yourself with burpees.
Yeah, but knowing what that limit is now, like now you can get there. So it's time to get there, and no matter what endeavor you're doing, I don't care if it's getting through an apprenticeship. I don't care if it's going to work so you can go provide for your family. I don't care. Like now you know what you can do, and now it's time to do it.
Yeah.
And the experience of having gone through that and different, that then like now I must push. now I must break it off because it's ordered of me to provide or do whatever.
Like one of the biggest sayings in wrestling is from Dan Gable, and he said, once you've wrestled, everything else in life is easier. And that's true in my opinion. But for me, it's like, the reality of like, you can get depressed real fucking easy because when you're not pushing it. Mm-hmm. And that is
when you're being soft, and then you get upset with yourself,
and in all facets of life.
Yeah. But maybe that's a good thing, because I know when I'm letting my fitness slide, and I get a little grumpy with myself, and it's like, all right, only way to correct this is fucking write a plan, get out there in the morning, fucking let's go.
But it's everything. It's did you walk your dog?
Why is your face turning red, Mike?
Like
I'll never forget. Remember, we were sitting in the garage, my garage, one time doing a podcast, and you were talking to Jordan about fitness. And Tobin goes, "You just got to try harder. That's all you got to do. You got to try harder." And he's saying that. And at the time, he was eating 2 pieces of pie that Danielle brought us. He's like, "Dude, you want to get ripped? Try harder." Hey, and it was like, there might be some genetics involved.
That was homemade pie. That does not. It doesn't even count. Yeah, you don't even have to write it down on the sheet.
That doesn't even register as real pie.
Those are neutral calories, buddy.
Yeah, pretty much was
hand-picked berries full of vitamins.
Sometimes
antioxidants.
That's right. That's right.
It's awesome.
Don't always try harder.
Yeah.
Don't always try harder.
Sometimes it's just given.
Oh my God.
But that makes me think of getting back to this topic, which I can't wrap my head around. This last topic we've been speaking of
USAID. Yeah, let's rein it in.
Okay, we'll rein it in. Why?
Welcome to our ADD break.
Why, when you have the ability to move mountains with your fists, or like the United States was such a powerful force militarily, instead of keeping that as your fucking main protocol for keeping people in alignment or representing yourself, why would you go off of mind games? Like, this is your ploy. This is the way.
Because that's the operating system that you were born with, that is.
But the U.S. wasn't.
Because it keeps people in line. Yeah. Controlled media tells people what they want, and people don't want conflict. At the end of the day, we want all the same things. We just want to do our job, have some food in our refrigerator, hang out with our kids, have some fun. And so if you put programming in front of people on the television or on their smartphone that says everything is hunky-dory, that's what they want to believe. It's confirmation bias. They want to believe that.
If you just agree, to please people, whether it's not just a government, but just say in your life, if you're just saying things to appease people, eventually those appeasements are going to be found out by others, and people are going to be angry.
Welcome to 2025, motherfucker.
Yeah. So how does that work as a solid long-term plan? Or was it just
it doesn't.
I don't think it does.
And the people that,
because it's built on lies. So a foundation, a house without a foundation must fall. Our house has no foundation. It's built on lies.
So if you know that lies will eventually crumble and truths will be found, why not just keep a strong-handed approach? Why did we change?
I think they're trying. I don't think our foreign policies are changing that much.
I mean, with regime change and infiltrating.
It's really not.
What was in this coffee?
Those lights are flickering.
It's not just you. It's tripping me out too. Well, I think.
Welcome to Neverland, brother.
Oh shit!
The way that our foreign policy, which is what this is all centered around, right? The way that it was composed and orchestrated and implemented, they never in a million years in 1961, and the people that kind of ran roughshod from post-World War II up until maybe the Obama years, they never could have conceptualized the internet.
Yeah.
They never could have conceptualized just free market media.
Yeah.
They never in a million years would have conceptualized major media, like legacy media, collapsing in public opinion. They never would have thought about that. Yeah. Right. And the reason for that is because they had this system that they're just going to live and die by. But lo and behold, the people have spoken.
Yeah. We've talked about it before, where the internet and the smartphone has created a billion points of light where information is just bouncing around like crazy and nobody can contain it. And that's why you have all these like internet censorship bills up in Canada. They tried to pass it here. The EU is passing it. Yeah. And it's because this, in fact, I think we even did an episode early on called Communications Disrupting Old Power Systems, right? Yeah. And that's exactly what's happening.
Disruptive technology.
What we are experiencing, it wasn't going to play out in 6 months. Yeah. It's going to take decades to play out. The old power system has been disrupted, and we are all feeling chaos. And all of this unrest is the chaos of the old system, kind of like a little earthquake hit it, and it's unsettled. And what I keep saying is that unsettling is an opportunity, because when we're back to the frozen states of matter, right? So if water is frozen into a crystalline structure, it's set. How do you change the structure of that ice? Little heat, little entropy, Mike. Right? You remember this conversation? Yeah. Get it liquid, get it moving around. Now you can reorganize those molecules, and when you like the organization, freeze it. Now you have a new structure that you agree with. So what's happening? Jesus Christ, what's up with these lights, Jordan?
I'm just having good ideas.
Are you doing that with your mind?
Yeah. Okay. Here, I'll get a flicker again.
Stranger things going on right here.
Yeah. So all this unrest.
You just come on them. Dude, those eyeballs. Yeah, I don't like that.
Stand by.
All this unrest is the liquefying of the old crystalline structure, and now it's moving around with less. You know what I mean? Like just like water sloshes around, it's sloshing around until it finds equilibrium.
Yeah, but
when it finds equilibrium, it can sit still and refreeze.
But the point of the newspaper and the press used to be, in the day, to be a watchdog for the government and for...
No. That's what they told us.
Yeah, is it that's true.
Where
journalism.
Most of the number of journalists who are on the payroll of the CIA as far back as the 1950s is shocking. Yeah. And for everybody listening at home who's like, that wouldn't happen, do your own homework, please.
But it's just like,
check me.
It's an affair or anything. Anything that's going against the grain of what it should be, eventually it's going to implode or explode.
Anything built on lies must collapse. True. And so here's another spiritual woo-woo thing, is that truth stands. If you know you're telling the truth, you can never feel nervous. You can never feel scared. You can never lose confidence, because you know in your bones that what you're saying is correct. And you start to understand when you're being lied to, and you can feel the weakness in your own lies if you tell like a little white lie to your kids or something, like, hey, where's Georgia, or where's Georgia's hamster? Like, oh, he's outside in the greenhouse while it's 19 degrees outside because he was too warm in here. So he's just kind of chilling out there in a box.
Well, everything was true until that
But
point.
even then, and she saw through that how fast. Because
fast.
she's a young child. She's not corrupted by any of the bullshit we've all been exposed to. So she doesn't believe the programs. She looks at that and she goes, you're not telling me the truth.
Well, she's more in touch with her instincts.
Exactly.
And we really, and this is maybe a modern phenomenon. I don't know if it's necessarily an American phenomenon to ignore your built-in instincts, the things that you have just in your guts and in your heart. Things. Yeah. It's just, you get a gut feeling. You can't quantify that in any way. But
through all the plant medicine and sort of self like reflection, I'm there where I know now, I know things that are true to me. And most of the time when someone's bullshitting me, I'll sit there and smile and nod along, but I know they're bullshitting me. Yeah. And it's not, and a lot of times it's not malicious or insidious or like bad-hearted. It's literally people running their own social program. These things, like something they saw on the news, and now they're telling you about it. And it's like, I know that you do not subconsciously believe this, even though you're telling me this enthusiastically because it's at the front of your brain and it's something you've been thinking about, and maybe you think it's a good idea, but you know it's a lie, and I can see it.
Yeah. Either that, or they're just not comfortable enough with the subject matter to put an idea forward. And this is said this before, but
And I think one more little thing to this is I've always had a short amount of patience for people who are full of shit. And I didn't understand it until very recently, but it's because I can so quickly see that they're full of shit and they're just talking to sort of present this shell of who they want to present themselves as. And I wouldn't argue or I'd just sort of walk away. People probably thought I was a dick, but the reality is I recognized the programs in the shell so fast, and I realized that I was being fed a line of shit, and I'd just be like, I don't want to talk to that guy. I'm out of here.
Yeah, but if that's
So congratulations. The fact that you three are sitting at this table means that I think you're authentic 99.9% of the time.
which one is this? This one?
But isn't
Oh,
Damn it.
Pick the blank one.
don't you think that people at the tops
Oh, they don't even work.
wasn't there one? Oh, that
One of them has fucking round of applause.
Oh, it.
Yeah. Good call. But wouldn't you think that people at the top would be a little bit more inclined to understanding how power systems and structure work?
Within the confines of their expression of power structures.
Of what that is.
Yes,
But
yes.
I mean,
And
they
I think a
they
lot of
have
them
enough
were born
awareness to
into-
climb to the top.
I think when you're born into wealth and power that's handed to you, and all you really have to do is exercise it,
There
and
ain't no
that's also
climbing.
why you see these Hunter Biden figures,
Yeah.
right? That he was born into wealth and power, but couldn't exist within that system. And I stand by. As soon as within a year, Joe Biden's going to die, and then Hunter's going to have a quote unquote overdose. I would bet money on that.
Heard it here
It's
first.
really hard for me to feel bad for anybody named Biden, but if there's any one person, it might be
Well, the
that guy,
daughter,
actually.
Oh, I was going to say the
right.
daughter who
Ashley.
wrote her diary that her
Ashley
dad's in the
Biden.
shower with her. Like,
Yeah, it's just what a disgusting fucking piece of work that entire family is.
that's
but,
how you create good art.
Jesus,
I mean, it's
that's right.
paintings.
Yeah. Pain,
That'd be a little trouble.
Are we still looking for a Biden original?
I'm looking, dude.
We're making a few on paper plates right behind me here on the counter. That's what I got Georgia do. I got the 5-year-old in here like sweatshop style. Make me some fucking Hunter Biden paintings.
It's actually better.
That's probably better.
Oh God.
Ooh, that could be a business site. You guys how old's your kids?
Don't even think about roping my kids. What the fuck you have to
Hunter
go
Biden art scheme.
Think about the paintings we could put on Etsy.
This goes no further. Jesus Christ. There you go.
Anyway. You guys, this is crystal meth and this is a paintbrush. Let's see what you guys can do.
I don't know. It seems to me it's so weird. Like
You guys like
Through
glue and
hu-
macaroni to shit?
through human history, having so much bloodshed and knowing that bloodshed usually conquers most things. It trumps everything. If I can beat
I'm almost
you-
wondering if everything pre-World War I isn't just a bunch of bullshit because all the war and bloodshed is not working out.
Sorry. You can't keep a lid on human nature.
yeah.
You can kill people, you can destroy things, you can disrupt societies, but you can't stop human nature from happening because as long as there's a human being alive to keep these ideas going, and unless you want to go full throttle Terminator and just exterminate everybody, which has been done.
Yeah.
But we see this in the Middle East right now. They've pulverized a section of Gaza, all of Gaza,
Most of Gaza.
and killed however many tens of thousands of people, and they're coming back better, stronger,
But that's what
more
I mean.
equipped.
Do you
They're not
think
giving up.
the Middle East would be the Middle East it is today without United States involvement over the last 100 years?
Because look at
right?
Look
Yeah,
at the kingdoms.
exactly.
The
But
kingdoms. The Saudi kingdom, the kingdom of Oman, the kingdom of Bahrain, the UAE. They're Islamic kingdoms. They don't fuck with democracy. They set the law at the very top. There's no alcohol. Women cover their hair. And people are thriving and flourishing because that's the way that those societies are supposed to be run.
Yeah.
It's their cultural norm.
Yeah.
Say what?
What?
Yeah, there's that too.
But all those things, the way those societies were run, were due to bloodshed. If you do not abide by these rules as a woman, we'll stone you. If you don't abide by this, we might maybe cut your hand off. So why
Not a lot of petty theft.
Yeah, but so why has the world changed?
They don't
or
have
the
to.
leading
I don't have
dominant-
to ask someone to unlock the fucking razors in UAE.
Yeah.
They have those Mach 7s.
The
I don't
fucking
know.
fucking Cheez-Its are not behind bulletproof glass.
And this is the thing, we don't have the same kind of alcohol prohibitions, and we're a very liberal society. We won't take you out and off with your heads in
They
public.
also don't have Johnny Cash.
Well,
Just saying.
correct. But they won't rope you into bullshit tax evasion charges and throw your ass in prison. They won't hem you up on some bullshit nonviolent drug offense and you're in prison for the rest of your life.
So, but that's what I mean. When bloodshed usually rules as what dictates law and you have those type of things, why do you see the world economic power player, the most important person, using deception the most when throughout history, like we're just saying,
To keep the masses in line.
Because it's the best.
Because if you told the truth, the masses would be upset. Because I actually don't think human.
but doesn't bloodshed keep
Again,
the masses in line?
No. So because I actually think human nature is not bloodshed and fighting. Because think about if I said again, Mike, what do we all want? Safe streets, good schools, clean parks, happy kids, time to spend with our families, right?
love.
That's actual human nature. Yes, we will fight to protect those things, but we only fight when we really think about what you have to create a situation where people feel like their lifestyle is in danger to get them to fight.
Yeah.
Because
You got to do that to get people to go to work,
yeah. Yeah.
which is why
Yeah.
we're being taxed out the ass.
I mean, that's
I-
actually
I-
a really good point.
I
So
used
is
to
this
wonder. I used to
maybe-
wonder why my good friend at work, Jason, used to always say he's an anarchist because I equated anarchist with Antifa, and then I realized if we didn't have a fucking government and we just had to figure out how to get along with each other,
Yeah.
here we are.
And this is a big,
Yeah.
I mean, people are freaking about Trump's new cabinet picks and some of his economic plans. If we're in the first couple weeks, so it's going to take a couple years for all this stuff to really play out. But if his model bears any kind of fruit in the next couple years, his economic policy is only going to work if the government footprint shrinks dramatically.
Yeah.
We're
If
shrinking.
that happens, then we're going to have less frivolous bullshit to be pulled out of it. I got my property assessment,
Oh god.
right? There's my property taxes.
Those a month after I bought this house, they real quick. They
always
always,
do it.
reassess right now.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, this house just went up in value.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck you. Here comes your more taxes.
So there's my property taxes, and then there's the school union dues, Department of Education. That was more than the fucking taxes I'm paying on my house.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So if this stuff shrinks to any meaningful, I mean, we're going to find out in the next couple of years, but if this realignment of government and government spending really sticks, that's going to set the tone for the next administration and the one after and the one after, because
They can't go back.
Nobody,
Once the rabbit's out of the
this
hat.
is the thing. Yeah. Nobody will have seen this kind of productivity and economic commerce, feasibility, anything. It's the flexibility that you're going to be able to have, just to know that I'm not going to work paycheck to paycheck anymore.
No.
You know, that's most of American workers have never had that experience.
No, bro, I'm coming from 3.5. I've been off work for 3 months now, and it has been the most fucking amazing time of my life. And I can't, it has completely changed the way I look at my life and what I want out of my life. And I am going back to work in March, slightly under protest, but I'm going back to, when I say slightly, like 98% under protest, but I'm going back with an exit plan. And I don't want to be back at work for more than 3 years. And in the next 3 years, I want to be completely self-made, self-directed, to the point where today's a Wednesday. If we just want to stay home in the snow with the kids and put a little bourbon in the coffee and go to the sledding hill, fuck it. Maybe I'll do work tonight when the kids are in bed, or I'll do work on Saturday because that's when I choose to. And I'll get out of bed when I fucking want to. And I'll work out in the morning. I'll spend, I think I said it a couple episodes ago, since October 15th, I've spent the first 3 hours of every day doing things that are important to me. That is a fucking game changer.
Yeah.
you find out how much unimportant shit you have to slog through for what exactly? You know, no return.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I had 2 weeks off, and that was enough for me to realize some shit. And that's 2 weeks.
I had standby last spring and was off for like 4 weeks, just waiting to go on another job. And I expanded the run around my chicken coop, built a whole garden, got a bunch of mulch brought in. I was working my ass off every day,
but never feeling like
it's a fucking rad.
Yeah, you're loving every second.
Yeah,
of it. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah, Mike's over there like, fuck that. I'm so tired of burn piles.
Jesus.
Listen, both me and Alex told you, we'll bring over some oil, some diesel. We'll light that burn pile.
Yeah, I know you will.
All right.
I'm not looking to recreate the
maybe,
floor.
maybe a big fan.
No, thank you.
It's 19 degrees outside. How many trees can we burn down?
Dude, I bought a leaf blower just for that.
Did you?
I'm ready to go. We'll hit it from both sides.
I got this I got a rocket full of flaming magnesium. We'll launch into your neighbor's yard. No?
Perfect.
No, I'm good.
Oh, man. All right. USAID. Corruption. Overseas policies. We keep derailing you, Mike.
I'm
You keep wanting
I'm
to
just
say something.
struggling with the difference between like having power through a strong fist and having power through
A carrot and a
intricate
stick.
lies.
I think
It's kind of the same thing.
I think it's all coming home now.
The fist has to
that
back up the lies.
This doesn't work. It doesn't work for us.
Yeah.
And other superpowers don't give a fuck if we're going to drive ourselves into the ground. I mean,
Yeah.
Russia's economy, despite what anybody else has
It's an
said.
80-year failed experiment.
Yes, yes, correct. Our rivals are thriving because of
Yeah.
everything that we did to try to thwart our rivals.
And they're
This
actually
is
using
unacceptable.
They're using our downward momentum to propel their upward swing.
Yeah.
Because we created so much. We created the energy in a negative way, like an animosity toward us, and now they're riding that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Russia's been around for 1,000 years. China's been around for 3,000 years. The Middle East has been a more or less consolidated, cohesive unit.
1,500.
Yeah.
All of recorded
Another
history.
2,000 years.
Yeah.
We are a 250-year-old nation. You know, this is not the way the world works.
No,
We
it's
should
not.
be focusing
But
on rebuilding our own
we
house.
reestablished the world within a matter of 100, 200 years.
Yeah, because it had been flattened and nobody could resist.
This is going, I think, 1991. Charles Krauthammer coined the phrase the unipolar moment. The Soviet Union goes down and comes up and says, we are the superpower. There's nobody else. It's just us. And because of this, we have the right, the obligation, the duty to drive world affairs in our image.
Yeah.
And
Of course, we were the manufacturing kingpin because everybody else's cities were fucking rubble.
Yeah.
There was. That's why Chrysler could build a shitbox car and succeed because there was no competition. Fast forward to 1988, here comes Subaru with their fucking Paul Hogan drive. Remember when Subaru commercials were cool? Remember it was Paul Hogan driving the Outback through like the Australian desert, rallying that shit?
Crikey.
Yeah. Now it's all like fucking.
Okay,
They need to bring back the Subaru Brat. That's all. That's
That's
all
right.
I'll say
That's
about that.
That's
What's a
what changed.
brat?
What?
a Subaru
What
brat.
the fuck?
I know
All
Dub
right, Jordan,
Brat.
hold him up. I'll spear tackle him.
Yeah, dude. Fucking.
Sorry, a bunch of lesbians over here with their Subaru knowledge. Excuse me.
Dude, there were no seatbelts in the back seat.
There were
There were
hang on,
handlebars.
There were two seats
Nice.
in the bed that faced rear.
It was imagine an El
Oh,
Camino.
I know what you're
Like a
talking
small,
about
like a
now.
Tacoma-sized El
Yeah,
Camino,
yeah.
but it had two seats in the bed that faced because that's where you drink beer.
Yeah.
Let me tell you,
Well, you can do it
Friday
anywhere.
night cruising the strip, a couple silver bullets, bro. Living backseat of a Subaru Brat. That's
In the
fucking
Brat.
high time.
Yeah, dude. That'll blow your mullet back.
Yeah.
Oh. It's
Mike, as the other 40-year-old in the room, you should. I feel like you should know more about this than Jordan.
I'm sorry, I'm just
experience.
all American.
Well-
I'm not into Subaru and these lesbian mobiles. Yeah.
All right.
True American.
All right.
It's all good.
I had an El Camino.
You'll
once.
learn. Well, that's American.
Yeah. Well, I had a Subaru Brat. currently.
Subaru. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, my point is that a lot of our dominance was on the fact that we were separated from World War II by 2 oceans, so we were largely unscathed. Plus, we actually increased our manufacturing capabilities like exponentially during those few years. And then everybody else was fucking decimated. So it's like, here's this one continent that has all of its manufacturing intact, all of its infrastructure intact. Everybody else is fucked. Yeah. And then we did, by the way, how many of you guys are aware that BlackRock was awarded a reconstruction contract for Ukraine?
For Ukraine.
So guess what happened after World War II?
Yeah, that's carpetbaggers.
Right. Japan had to be reconstructed. China had to be reconstructed. All of Europe had to be reconstructed. Yeah. Most of Russia, fucking Moscow, Leningrad, or Stalingrad, all of these cities had to be reconstructed. There was, and that's probably also another lesson that the military-industrial complex learned, is that you can make a shitload of money funding both sides of a war, and then immediately after the war, you can make a shitload more money rebuilding everything.
So do you think China and other countries
it's sort of like causing cancer and then selling people cancer treatment. It's the same business model.
You mean COVID?
Exactly.
Take it back even further, though. Go all the way back to the American Civil War, because the Civil War concludes, Southern Reconstruction happens, but now there's one consolidated federal government. Lincoln's gone, obviously. The government subsidizes other companies to build their own rail company. So private rail yards were basically priced out. They couldn't build. A very inefficient model, way too much spending. But the point is, what became of that? A failed effort to kind of consolidate everybody. And what did a few people made a tremendous amount of money rebuilding the American South.
Yeah. That was the beginning of the robber barons.
And then expanded westward. Mm-hmm. And we had the Indian Wars. We had, this is our bread and butter, is to fuck shit up and
rebuild
and send people in and rebuild.
But I get it when it's fuck shit up. That I understand. What I don't understand is like lie about it to fuck it up. But here's where I'll say
the masses hang on. If you knew what we were actually doing, would you be upset about cutting your IRS check? If the masses,
of course.
If the masses believe that everything is hunky dory, we're all living in la fucking fairy tale land, then everybody.
But lying will eventually get caught.
Yes.
Like it will be found out, and your demise will happen.
How many of these people have ever had consequences?
This is the thing, though.
Think about all the these people like Zuckerberg or whoever have been called to the floor of the Senate to testify, and it's like you have like Jim Jordan or Eli Crane, and they're asking them all these questions, and people are like watching this on Twitter, and they're like, "Fuck yeah, get him." It's like, but nothing's ever going to happen. Yeah, sure. You're watching him look uncomfortable on video and under questioning, but they'll never actually have any consequences.
Undoubtedly on Twitter or Instagram, which they're both a part of.
Yeah, exactly. He's actually making money
watching this
through the controversy as he himself is getting grilled by the Senate.
Yeah.
Right?
The people at this table, and probably the people listening to this, could never imagine being caught in a lie. Think about the mental gymnastics you would have to run through to carry on a lie when you've committed to it
for years.
He's
Holy
gay,
shit,
dude.
that's exhausting. Are we talking about? We're talking about Mike, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't.
They taste good when you fit them all in your mouth.
I was gonna say I've known for like 3 years since he blew me in the sauna.
Whoa. Yeah.
Oh man,
dude, that's some disinformation.
I thought somebody spilled oil on the seat.
There was
that smell. I thought you guys were pouring beer on the rocks. Yeah.
He's like, I can't tell my wife to listen to this.
House of Lies.
Yeah, no, my wife's not going to listen to this.
She turned it off 45 minutes ago. We know.
Oh yeah,
but it just keeps me thinking. So China then currently is doing our CIA of post World War II until currently right now. Yes. Right? That is their tactic, is doing disinformation and influence through DEI or
no, they're not using DEI.
Not anymore.
The thing is, though, I mean, and this is...
Yeah, to cripple us?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like DEI is a program they inserted into our
we're
system.
spreading false. Like all
yes.
this is seen as like
Yes.
CIA misinformation to disrupt and disable areas. So if breaking skulls doesn't work anymore, now we're going to go towards spreading lies and disinformation or propaganda.
Well, there's definitely something true to that, but there was something interesting that happened when the president of Iran came to the United States. He went to New York and he was interviewed. And this is right after the Trump assassination attempt, right? And everyone was saying Iran had a plan. They did this, they did that. And someone asked him point blank, it's like, did you have anything to do with the Palestinian protests on campus universities around? And he said two things that were really interesting. There's a couple other points to this, but he said, you guys have freedom of expression and people have the right to use that, correct? So he kind of called the free press out, which was interesting. He said something else. It's like, we can't make payroll in our own country. We're strapped for cash right now. You think we can fund a student rebellion in America? Go fuck yourself. And at the same time, when this was happening, people in Congress like Matt Gaetz and other Republicans were saying, we have information, we can't share it with you, but we know that Iran was behind the assassination attempt. He was in the country at the time. Go arrest him if you believe that. Yeah. So I agree with you to a point that other countries are certainly doing other things, but our media apparatus is so good at just cramming bullshit down our throats that maybe so, maybe not. We just don't know.
Yeah.
You know? It's a little bit
sauna's worth of bullshit down your throat.
It just, yeah, thank you.
One night in the sauna.
Yeah. I don't know.
Part 2. Mike Kozak.
It just makes me think like when you have a fist or you have a letter, what gets more done? You know, like if someone's standing in front of you and they want
we used
something
to say in the Middle East, you can get further with a
depends
gun
on
and a
if-
smile than with either alone.
Yeah.
Because you pull up to these checkpoints and you show that you're packing, and then you smile and you wave.
Yeah.
And they got guns too, and nobody wants to shoot each other. So they smile and they wave, and it's like, okay, cool. This is the most fundamental understanding in human interaction. I'm not going to kill you. You're not going to kill me. And we're just going to let each other pass.
But I'm going to lie about you and tell your sister. And that's the United
right.
States way. That's it's just a weird 3D chess. I don't fully I get deception.
It's incompatible with the American dream.
Yeah.
It's incompatible with how we want to live our lives. It's incompatible with populism.
Yeah.
We want to work and do our jobs and go home and raise our wives and kids and just do our fucking thing and be left alone.
And most people
we don't want to meddle
worldwide
with other
want
people.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guarantee. In fact, I know from traveling the world that we would go do these exchange programs, or we'd be on the fucking mountains of Afghanistan, and we'd run into villagers, and they were so excited, and they wanted us to come into their house and have some tea, and they wanted to show us like that they had an AM radio that they could. It was like a hand crank thing, and they would turn it on and play some music, and they were so excited. And the reality is, they were excited to show a stranger their way of life. And when someone comes here and visits, even from somewhere else in America, we're excited. We take them on the ferries, or we take them down to the beaches, or we take them up to the mountains because we're excited to show them our way of life. That is human nature. That's if you leave us alone and stop implementing these fucking social programs that are inserted into our brains and into our psyches, that's what humans do.
Yeah.
Do you think social programs are a product from having a complex society where it's like we need to have narratives and we need to have groups behind us? Say we're a family and the son's acting up, so I need to get the daughter to be like, hey, get on board with the family. Do you think as complexity rises with like tribe and people, it also just creates a more complex way of having to try to deal with these?
Yes, because to get along socially, we need rules or at least understandings amongst each other, and that's kind of what religion is, right? It's a group of rules that a society
Adopt a code
can agree
we can
upon.
all abide by.
But at some point, religion got corrupted because then you realize, oh shit, if society needs rules to get along, then we manipulate the rules.
Yeah.
And then the people, because people want to get along. Think about how, like, you don't want to have a conflict with your neighbor over some stupid bullshit, like burning down their tree. Like, you'd rather just
Continue.
yeah. You'd rather get along with your. Fuck, I totally lost my train of thought.
No, but you do want commonality. It helps everyone
yes. And so,
coalesce.
as when a society or a group of people adopt a common set of rules, if someone has ill intent, then they can realize that set of rule. Don't try to corrupt individual people. Corrupt the set of rules that they all ascribe to, and tell them that it's virtuous.
That's actually a really good way of putting it.
After
How do you vet that? How do you vet the people that are making the rules? Or
How do you vet the people, or how do you vet the rules?
The people making the rules are the rules, right?
I think you vet the rules to yourself first. And okay, now we're back to hippie woo-woo spirituality and authenticity. Understanding who you are. Back to those programs. Can you say, again, when Christy drew her picture and she wrote all these words out, and I was looking at these words and I was like, a lot of those words describe me. And I like a lot of those words. Hardworking, patriotic, strong, whatever.
Micro penis.
Micro penis. Fucking, are those words that describe me as was I born patriotic? Was I born hardworking? Or did I learn to be patriotic? Did I learn to be hardworking?
Say it, Mike.
Was I born with
a micro penis? Or did that shit shrink in the wash? I don't know.
No,
So
I mean,
you cannot honestly say I am patriotic, because you're not. You learned patriotic.
do you see my American Eagle tattoo on my lower back?
Were you born with it?
Someone
Joe
said-
Dirt.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, but
it's-
you are born with all the things that everybody wants.
You are born,
innately,
and,
right?
and I
So-
think you are born with morality. Jordan, did you have to learn to not harm children, or was that something you think came with you?
No, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
sorry, I cut
mean,
it
that's
I think this is the beautiful part about the Constitution and the way that our society is organized, is it pulls together all from hundreds of years of government observation from other cultures. This is the best way to organize people so that they can express themselves as people.
the problem is the best way for us, and that's what everybody fucking forgets.
Yeah. You're right.
And
Is it the best way for us, or is it the best way for the people who?
I
sit
think
in
I
office?
think if you look at like what we have, I don't know necessarily the difference, right? I don't know what it's like to grow up in Afghanistan or Africa or fucking China or Russia. I know what it's like to grow up in America, and I know what it's like to be a good person.
Yes.
And I think everybody, like you're saying, is born with morality and do unto others, or ascribe that or religious whatever, or you just say you're raised to be a good person. You know what's right, you know what's wrong innately. I think every human being does. Yeah. Whether or not we're worried about big governments or what's going on with these governments, you drop me anywhere in the world and I'll be okay just by acting morally.
Yes.
You know what it is
you
to
will
be a
have
good
food.
person.
Yes.
You'll have a place
And-
to sleep,
and I
because
think
people can feel that coming off of you.
Yes. And I think that is like the thing that you need to focus on and work on, is that kind of shit. All the other stuff is like a fucking, we could sum up this podcast, go watch Mean Girls. That's what governments do. They fucking lie, cheat, steal. They do all this different bullshit. And like the reality is, at the end of the day, like as long as like we're working to be truthful to ourselves and be like genuine and kind, like you were raised. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that are raised in a horrible situation and don't, but they probably realize it's horrible and they don't like it because innately they know this isn't right.
Or
and I don't feel
one
good
of
about
three
this.
things happens. They become a psychopath who doesn't care. They live a fucked up life where they're mentally damaged from that bad situation they grew up in, or they figure it out and they find their authenticity. And back to what we were saying earlier, that authenticity is how you recognize truth. First, you have to recognize the true form of yourself. And when you understand who the authentic form of yourself is, that's when you start to recognize everybody else's programs, because at that point, you've recognized your own programs, and we all have them. And when you can see it in yourself, you start to see it in other people, and then you know in your bones when you're being lied to and when you're being told the truth.
We're putting this country into uncharted territory, because we know that what we've come out of does not work, and I'm cautiously optimistic about the future, because there's and I'm not going to get into it tonight, but there's so many things that I feel very negative about that are on a current trajectory in this country. But the opportunity for economic feasibility for the family, I don't think has ever been higher than right now, or will be. In the future, based on current events. And no matter what happens, we're on a limited timeline. We're going to have 4 years of this, and then we're going to pass the torch. We're not coming back to this guy. It might be Marco Rubio. It might be J.D. Vance. It might be Tulsi Gabbard.
It might be Kamala Harris.
And this is, no.
Do not be burdened
I am blown
by what has been.
I am blown away. I can't wrap my mind around how quickly she got memory hold.
Oh, yeah, she got.
We should never let them off the hook for what a fucking disaster that woman was.
The DNC is continuing. They didn't learn their lesson. I think they just elected David Hogue as like their vice chair, or hired him as their vice chair.
This is what I'm saying, is any criticism about whatever Donald Trump is going to do in his cabinet picks and his economic decisions and his foreign policy moves. It's like, hey, you ran Kamala Harris. Fuck off.
Yeah. And what was interesting is today, doing a little bit of homework for this episode, I pulled up YouTube and I punched in USAID. So I started scrolling down. It was all mainstream media clips, which one is telling as what is YouTube putting in front of people? Only CNN, MSNBC, Stephen Colbert, etc. But then I watched a few of them, and so it's like they're interviewing former USAID employees now, and they're like, "What does this mean to you?" And they're like, "Well, we were told that our jobs no longer exist, and we have to find a plane ticket home. And I was working on a project that was mostly going to impact women and children and in Zimbabwe, and this was done to protect them." And it's like, you know what, bitch? That's the men of Zimbabwe's job. Yeah. The men will protect the women and the children. They don't need a fucking overweight lesbian to protect their women and children from them. Shut the fuck up.
And the counter argument to that, to a lot of foreign policy people, is just like, this is just going to open a vacuum for China and Russia to get involved. It's like, let them waste their fucking money. Fine.
Yeah. When I texted the other day and I was like, we'll talk about USAID, but also it's just the amount of money the United States hemorrhages. It is absolutely incredible. And if you look at any other country in the world, no one really compares towards.
I think you guys got to fact check me on this, but I think I read that USAID alone, shutting it down, can balance our budget. It's like $230 billion a year.
That wouldn't balance the budget, but it would make a difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll apply for a job. You think they need a sticker installer?
Oh, fuck yeah.
There's room for you.
Stickers across
Keep in mind,
America.
as we say all this, they have not been shut down. They have not been closed down. A lot of people have been terminated.
Freeze. Yeah.
And they've been moved into the jurisdiction of the State Department.
And here's the other thing that everybody
they're not a separate entity anymore. Yeah. They're under the State Department.
A lot of the contracts that have been terminated are contractors. So as a former government contractor, you work 90 days at a time. And it's known that when this one's over, there might not be a next one. Yeah. And so you just dabble along through your career like that.
This new Trump administration has been interesting because I was never a Trump, like, he's my boy, I'm a fan. It's like, hey,
So far,
whoever
so good.
does the best for the United States,
Yeah.
fucking right on you.
Yeah, it's
And-
after Trump for sure.
Yeah. And that first term, the first term was so weird with the revolving door in the cabinet and like him just kind of getting like, it felt like he
chaos
was
in the
out
administration,
of
but it was his first time in politics too.
exactly. And to see the second term and how much shit
they're like,
is
well, they learned their
happening
lesson.
so fast.
Go for the jugular now.
It's very interesting, and maybe it's great, maybe it's bad. I can't quite tell from yet, but
Nobody knows.
I've never seen
way too early. It's way too early.
way too early, but god damn it. I've said it throughout the years. I'm like, I don't think the president can do anything. He has no real power.
Yeah.
And then boom, they tried to kill him. They tried to off him.
So far, so
they
good.
tried to
So
slander
far, so
him,
good.
and
Yep.
he is coming back with a
You know what is
vengeance.
concerning to me is that with all of the ICE deportations, a lot of federal agents are getting a lot of real world practice rounding up large groups of people who don't want to be arrested.
Yeah. And I've said this before. I'll say it again. Putting an unelected bureaucrat, Elon Musk, into a position of power, they gave him basically the keys to the treasury. I mean, he's the number one government contractor.
Yeah.
That nobody has a bigger stake in the game than that guy.
Could he be worse than the people already in charge of the treasury?
This is the thing, and they're
Fed?
putting him in a position of the government efficiency, like reallocating government funds. What does that fucking mean? While we're building data centers, right?
Yeah.
That's our number one job in the state right now is data centers. And that's the track.
The U.S. is about to get a Tesla loop.
Every conversation that we have,
Yeah.
every conversation that we have, every text message that we send, every email, it's all being stored. We know that from Edward Snowden's leaks in 2013. It's all of it is being stored somewhere. So
I know where it's being stored. Right outside of
Some of it's in Germany, some of it's in downtown. Like the Sheraton downtown Seattle has a entire floor that is servers.
Have you seen
'Cause it's-
how much
and it's
they're building
NSA
outside of Wenatchee?
And all this shit is hidden in plain sight.
'Cause it's right
if,
next
if
to
you
the
want to take
power
out the
plants.
NSA servers, they're on the 7th floor of the Sheraton, right? So nobody's going to send a missile. Hopefully nobody.
And this is, I mean, if we're going to build up infrastructure projects and put people to work and make people make money and buy houses and raise their kids on the back of what? Something that's completely anti-American, a complete violation of the Fourth Amendment. That's something that we got to grapple with in this administration, because whatever happens now, we're passing the torch to somebody in 4 years.
And this administration is also flirting with the idea of sending felons to, is it El Salvador? Which
but
fine if they're illegal
That's
immigrants,
gonna work.
but if you start sending U.S. citizens who are convicted in criminal court to another country, that's fucked up.
Yeah, but I think that's part of the we're gonna get Greenland, we're gonna get Canada, we're gonna take our
pizzazz.
prisoners,
And we're also going to send political prisoners to El Salvador.
Yeah, I think that's part of that.
I think
type
the
of
the tariffs on Canada and Mexico, they fell apart hours after they were announced.
Within 24 hours.
And part of it was
to tank crypto.
Justin Trudeau, when the tariffs had been announced, was like, less than 1% of American fentanyl comes across our borders. When he caved immediately and agreed to some kind of border plan. So he's on board.
it's
whether
all
he
for
likes it or
border,
not.
but that's what
Yeah.
I mean. All this is talked like it's Trump's art of the deal. You ask for way too much to get just what you want.
And here's another thing about securing the borders from a military standpoint. Before you hit a target, what do?
Recon?
Seal it off.
I don't seal.
You just spray and pray.
I'm here.
Run it wild. So interesting times.
Yep. All right. I think that's a good note to end it on. Interesting conversation as always with Scott here.
Yes, thank you.
Damn, dude. Seriously.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
This is good.
And for you guys listening at home, please go to iTunes or what's the other one? Spotify.
The
Spotify,
one. Spotify's the only one.
What's the other one? Yeah.
Wherever you listen.
Yeah.
Give us a review, because the more reviews we have, the more the algorithm will put our show in front of potentially new listeners. We are trying to spread the show, even though it's a slow burn, as Mike likes to say.
Don't be a faggot. Listen to our podcast.
Good night, everybody.